Hello, and welcome to Audente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we have Fog by Josef K. So, yeah, this one's by Josef K, which I believe we've done stories from him in the past. This one I actually snagged from the creepypasta.wiki site because it was the pasta of the month for September.
Of this year?
Of this year, yes.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it was made this year, but it was nominated this year for pasta of the month for September of 2021.
Nice.
Yeah. So we shall dive right into this one. The story is a letter of warning from our narrator, who we discover is Ryan later in the story, the XO of the USS Mistral, which you, the person reading this tale, has come across at sea, presumably. He's writing this to dissuade you from going further aboard the Mistral, and orders you, if you are a member of the Navy, to have the ship scuttled as part of a quarantine effort. He then regales you of the strange events and horrors that befell his ship and crew. They were looking into the remains of another ship, an Icelandic fishing vessel called the Magnusdottir in the North Atlantic. Mostly they found oil and debris and a single corpse who had been shot in the head and was clutching a knife. All the while, fog roiled about the sea. It was clear that a conflict of some kind had happened aboard the Magnusdottir, and it had been inexplicably sabotaged. The night that followed, the captain of the Mistral called everyone on deck, where the ship was on silent waters, surrounded by fog several hundred yards away in every direction, with a brilliant starry sky above, and massive eldritch lights moving along the ship several fathoms below it. As the lights blinked out finally, Ryan and the rest of the crew, gapping at them at the rail with awe, probably rolling sand checks at this point, felt a strange resonance in the air and the ship, and all the electrical systems and equipment were blown and damaged, effectively stopping the Mistral dead in the water. The next day, Ryan hurried up to the deck as screaming was heard, arriving to find the captain beating and kicking a man to death for letting off a flare. Uncharacteristically enraged and wild, the captain picked up the flare gun, had a brief nonsensical and deranged conversation with Ryan, and then burned his own head off by eating one of the rounds of the flare gun. All the while, a small group of the crew watched, and then they slinked back into the ship's interior when the confrontation was over.
And just to clarify, eating, you mean shot himself in the mouth with it, not one of the flares and then start chewing on it.
I thought that would have been explained with burning his own head off by eating one of the rounds, but okay.
Yes, but this is a creepypasta where they may describe things poorly and think that you can just gnaw on a flare and it'll set it off. I mean,
yes.
It might, for all I know.
Yeah,
I don't flare things.
Yeah, he put for clarity, he put the flare gun into his mouth, fired, and blew his head off, basically.
There you go.
Jesus, okay. That's when the shooting and screaming started as Ryan tried to comprehend what had just happened on deck. Ryan eventually went down, loaded with several flare guns of his own, as his own personal firearm had been taken when someone ransacked his own personal room, and proceeded to investigate the various execution-like deaths below deck. He came across the enlisted men's quarters, which was just an abattoir, and those still alive were violent and mad. Ryan fired a flare at one attacking sailor before closing that door and then running up and locking down the bowels of the ship itself. Now stuck on the cold deck outside, Ryan is writing this letter as a warning before he succumbs to the Arctic night, and once again reiterating that the ship should simply be scuttled and forgotten, and no one should venture to this region of the North Sea on account of strange lights and primal forces lurking beneath the surface. Finn. So yeah, that was Fog. I guess we will move on to everyone tolerates the grammar inquisitions at this point. And I've got a couple. They're pretty minor, but I got a couple. So, moving on to this first one here. Was the XO of this vessel, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Simmons. So for me, I kind of feel like that comma at the so where it says like I am, was, the XO of this vessel. I feel like it should be I am ... was, the XO of this vessel. Just because like he's sort of like correcting himself.
Yeah, or go I am, or was, the XO.
Yeah, that could work as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could even do I am ... or was, like it could be different. So, but I'll move on to my next one here. What we were able to piece together from the fragmented and confounding evidence was that, for reasons unknown, the crew had been in conflict, resulting in the murder of at least one sailor, and the eventual sabotage and destruction of the ship. So, resulting in the murder of the resulting in the murder of is the problem there. You just need to get rid of the of. So it's like resulting in the murder of at least one member of the ship. That's how it should read. So
yes,
just the and the of, the and the second of should be removed. Mikey, were you going to say something?
No, that's good.
Okay, cool. On to the next one here. It was as if every light bulb aboard the Mistral was suddenly flushed with power, flaring bright and buzzing noisily in their housings. And when the wine had reached a fever pitch, they began to pop and shatter among a shatter of sparks. They mostly come at night. Mostly. I just feel like there's a little bit of repetition there with the shatter and shatter, like in the literally like 2 words away from each other.
Yeah.
So I kind of, yes, like I offer up that maybe some words that you could use instead of shatter there would be like, they began to pop and shatter among a scatter of sparks or a spray of sparks.
Or a shower of sparks.
Yes, that would also work. Gamer, do you have any other suggestions for this?
I wasn't prepared.
I see you didn't do your homework, Gamer.
Oh,
No, I'm kidding, bro.
my dog ate it.
Oh, you're forgiven.
Cool. Yes.
All right. Okay, so put that over. We'll go on to the next one here. The door was wide open, and the smell of blood and fear and shit was nauseating. A bit of a nitpick here, but I just kind of think that like maybe it should be, and the smell of blood, fear and shit. Yep. Just like remove that second or that and there.
Yeah, because he's listing stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then like it's like I kind of get it. Like when you're reading, it's like and the smell of blood and fear and shit. Like, yeah, you could do that way, but it's like it also works just as well doing and the fear of blood, fear and shit. Like just not having to like do and all over again.
And I hate to say it.
It's the way. Nope. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. It could just be the way the character talks.
Yeah.
Because he's writing this down under duress.
I know.
But that's not an excuse, you know?
I understand, yeah. Like, it's... Yeah, we're taking this from the perspective of it's a piece of fiction, it's a story. Like,
yes.
So when it's this kind of writing, like, it's this style, I can't remember, it's like, what perspective is this? Where it's like, somebody is writing to a person that is not necessarily the reader. I I don't know if that's like a certain like perspective of writing, but
I'm sure it is, but I do not know what
Yeah.
that is.
I can't recall what it is. But anyway, yeah. We have to judge the story by some. We have to have some critical critique of the story with its grammar, because like some of it is like clearly wrong. And it's not in like necessarily dialogue or something like that. It's yeah. Anyway, moving on. The jaws came off with a sound of tearing tendons and an ululating shriek that vanished into the air. First, an ululating shriek, not a ululating shriek, which is what it says in the story. It has like just the regular a, not an before ululating.
It might be grammatically correct.
Okay.
Because ululating is describing the shriek, so it's a shriek.
A ululating. Maybe it's not ululating, because like sometimes like you do it might be the soft u, not a hard u. Also, secondary. I learned a new word today because I've never heard of ululating before, and I was like, I don't think that's what that word is. And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, that's actually a word. It's a verb meaning howl or wail as an expression of strong emotion, typically grief. So that was cool. But yeah, okay. And I don't know if it's ululating or ululating, but it's also kind of a hard word to say for me. Like ululating. I don't know how to say it. It's like so weird. Anyway, yeah, sorry.
He's fine.
I'll move on to the next one. It's cold now, and the fading day surrendering the wan or the wane. Shit, I didn't check if that was right. Anyway, it's cold now, and the fading day surrendering the wan gray light to the dark. The wan gray light to the dark. I think it should have an is there. So like the fading day is surrendering the wan gray light to the dark.
Yeah, because he's writing it in the moment, right?
Yeah. And again, like we said earlier, it could be like, oh well, he's in a hurry and he's fumbling his words because his extremities are all numb. But like, again, we're pulling out of fiction into the actual writing that the author did for this story, at the safety of their own like computer. We have to judge it by that merit sometimes, not by it's the way the character talks fiction or writes. But my last one here is, if I could get below, I would find some way of destroying the Mistral, like the brave men of the Magnus daughter. But it's too late. So I think some way in the sentence there is one word, but I think it needs to be two separate words. Like I would find some way.
Yeah.
Compound words are sometimes tricky, but I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be two separate words.
Mm-hmm.
But that is my grammar inquisition. So, Mikey, I hand you the torch and pitchfork.
Well, you did a fine job.
Thank you.
Also, based on a quick Google, apparently some way can be put together into one.
Yeah, see, like it's hard to tell sometimes, because like it's similar to no one. Like,
yeah,
I always think that no one is like a compound word, but like sometimes like when I'm typing that in, it like tells me I'm wrong. It's wrong, and it hates me.
It's regional.
Yeah. Like I'm literally looking at some way right now, like the single word in Google Doc, in my Google Doc for like my Inquisition, and it's telling me that there's a blue squiggly line underneath some way. So it's clearly also telling me that it's a wrong way, but it might be like just the way it's the regional, like you said.
Well, it's a blue squiggly, not a red one, so it's not a clear typo. It's a
grammar.
Yeah.
And it's telling me the correcting version of it is some separate way, like some or some space way. But anyway, I digress. Mikey.
All right. So you got my grammar inquisitions. So all that I have left is an it story.
Ooh, we haven't done those in a. We haven't done a like just a pure it story, or is it a conjunction junction?
It's just a pure it story.
Oh my
There
god!
was no conjunction junction to add.
Okay. And now an it story with Mikey. The E stands for evil. Take it away.
It happened the first night, when our final sweep had been completed, and we returned to the site of the Magnus Dotir's first transmission. It was as if every light bulb aboard the Mistral was suddenly flushed with power, flaring bright and buzzing noisily in their housing. And when the wine had reached a fever pitch, they began to pop and shatter among a shatter of sparks. It slowly dawned on me that I was alone, the silent audience having melted away below decks, no doubt taking the grim tale with them. It had been sacked, and my service pistol was missing. It's cold now, and the fading day surrendering the wan gray light to the dark. Finn.
That does kind of change the story a little bit because it doesn't seem like he didn't even make it down up to the. It makes it sound at the end that he like didn't even go down below deck, and he just like was considering committing suicide up on the deck.
Yeah.
And then he just like decided he couldn't find his service pistol because they took it away from him, so he just decided to wait there out in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Also, just because of the inflection you put on sparks, to me it sounded like you said erupted into a shatter of spocks. Like something blew up and there was a whole bunch of like spocks that like a whole bunch of what's the race
Leonard
called?
Leonard Nimoy.
What's
It's
the race
just like
called?
Vulcans.
Vulcans, yeah, a whole bunch of
Yeah.
Vulcans just like exploded out of the light bulb.
Oh no, I'm totally envisioning just like a bunch of mini Spocks, just like Captain,
Yeah.
Captain, and just like and constantly just like doing the Vulcan the Vulcan greeting sign with their hands.
Yep. That's why he was.
I'm literally, yeah. Well, I'm not. This is not a visual media, but I was clearly like as soon as I kept saying Captain, I literally had my hand out in the Vulcan fucking sign, as if somebody could see it. Wow, I am such a nerd.
It's fine. We all are in different ways.
Yes.
So that is it.
All right.
And for those unaware, Mikey does these it stories and conjunction junctions and such to highlight all the sentences in the story that start with words that they shouldn't, like its, ands, or buts. Because there's always better words that you can use there.
Especially if you use them like constantly in a story.
Yeah.
Like you can use them like once, or you can get away with like once or twice, but like a couple more than that, and it starts getting a little bit too repetitive. And repetition is sometimes an issue.
You say you can get away with one or two, but if there's one or two, then Mikey will 100% have a one or two long.
That's Mikey. Like that's us being critically silly. But I mean, like in writing itself, you can do it once or twice. But like again, you shouldn't rely on it like a crutch.
Yeah. For sure.
Also, context is key as well. But all right, I guess it's on to your grammar inquisition, gamer.
I only got one, and it's basically just I wish this sentence was shifted around a bit.
Okay.
This is near the end. They are not the men I knew, period. I console myself with this thought as I leave them in the dark to starve or murder each other. And I kind of wish it was flipped around the other way around.
Okay.
So it would be like, I console myself with this thought as I leave them in the dark to starve and murder each other. They are not the men I knew.
Yeah, I could see that.
To me, that sounds a little bit more dramatic, in my opinion.
Okay, I find it more dramatic as like he does the first thing first, but okay, like
almost like we're different people.
I know, yeah, no, I understand. Like I'm not bashing you for it. Like I can see where you're coming from too.
Yeah, but I feel it makes it more dramatic. So good one, gamer.
Yeah.
Okay.
That means
I'll
I'm right because
one other person on the show agreed.
yeah,
I'll just melt down in below decks now, silently away.
2 out of the 3 people here think I'm right. So
I win.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Also, notice I didn't say that you were wrong. I
know.
didn't mind. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's fine. All right. So I guess moving on to actual thoughts then.
Yep.
So, I found myself really like not taking a lot of notes during the story, but I'm going to read this quote, and then I'm going to just kind of break down a bunch of stuff I had of the story as a whole. So, the most I can make of my last moments, as all feeling flees my extremities, and writing becomes impossible, is a warning. Please, send us into the deep. Tell no one you found us, and never return. There are things and primal desires older than man, and forces beyond the grasp of our simple minds, and they dwell here beneath the frozen sea. The reason why I didn't really have a lot to comment during most of the story was because for me this was a pretty solid read of cosmic horror combined with isolation horror. The sailors discover the remains of a ship and its crew, and their demise is a mystery, like at the start, until they too encounter the eldritch entity, the lights underneath the ocean, that the other ship also likely encountered. The sanity checks are rolled like in that moment basically, and failed hard. And the crew begins losing themselves to madness, or maybe possessed by some strange rage, and begin killing one another, leaving only one person left to write down a warning to the next person. It's a classic horror plotline. It sort of felt to me like this was like when it sort of felt to me like this was like The Thing meets The Abyss, and even Call of Cthulhu, like the original story by Lovecraft. Especially given that the name of the first ship, the Magnus Daughter, is Scandinavian for daughter of Magnus. Thanks, Google.
That makes sense.
And the reason why I say that is because, like, in The Thing, the problems and the horrors that afflict the Antarctic, the U.S. Antarctic site, originate from discoveries found over at the Norwegian site, i.e., Scandinavia. So, and then with the Abyss, like in that movie, there's weird, like, strange light, like lights in the ocean, like in the deep ocean, that they are like looking into and stuff like that. And like the weird light creatures are the main central mystery of the plot and stuff like that, and like they're in the source of their investigation and such. And then there's also a bit of like weird cabin fever, like isolation horror kind of going on, because people are cracking under the pressure of being so deep underwater. And then Call of Cthulhu, because madness. Like upon seeing a strange aquatic behemoth or cosmic of cosmic origin, the people just go nuts. And also has to do with like finding a ship, and like there being a letter that is a warning sign, because that's most of the story, I think, is actually just like a letter being written to somebody else. But also a little bit more trivia of specifically of the USS Mistral's name. So Mistral is a noun, and it means a strong, cold northwesterly wind that blows through the Rhone Valley and southern France into the Mediterranean, mainly in winter. So I figured, since I'd done some Googling to see what the Magnus Daughter meant, I might as well see what the Mistral sounded like, and it is kind of, it kind of matches, because it's a northern wind that blows in. So like it makes sense that they'd name a ship that goes out into the North Atlantic to be that name.
I believe the ship was reassigned up there, though.
Yeah,
So,
it was
like,
reassigned
it
from the
could
North
have
Atlantic, but it was reassigned from the North Atlantic operations, wasn't it?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
Sorry. I mean, I'm pretty sure. Hang on. Sorry, I just want to double check. That said somewhere in the beginning, like where.
I found it. It's halfway through.
Okay,
Mistral had just been serviced after an extended tour with the Atlantic Fleet in Bahrain before her transfer to the North Sea?
Where's Bahrain? This is super important.
I don't know about that.
Bahrain is in the Middle East. Okay, so maybe not quite, but still, again,
Yeah.
like appropriate to the story that the name is called is based like the ship is based off of a or is named after a northwesterly wind.
Hmm.
Sorry, got a bit of a frog in my throat. Sorry.
Yeah, get that
Rivet. Our skits are weird and spontaneous sometimes.
I'm glad you didn't say good, because then I would have had to correct you.
Yeah. They are a thing.
They are. They exist.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on to my next set of like comments here. So like I could definitely see like reading the story, I could definitely see this being the seed for a Call of Cthulhu or horror scenario in which the players like coming across these vessels and the insanity ensuing once they get aboard their own vessel. Like once they go and investigate and then they come back aboard their own vessel after reading the document that they find on a corpse on the deck of the ship, and like basically like do your characters just go back to your ship and scuttle it, or do you go deeper in and find the abattoir of horror that's underneath, that's at the bowels of the ship? And I could see you're like, the captain's like, no, we're going to check the rest of the ship. That's fucking stupid. We're not like, that's superstitious nonsense. We're going down and investigating the rest of the ship. It's part of the U.S. Navy. And then like horror ship having that, or if you do convince your captain to just scuttle the ship and move on, that's when I'll strike with all right, so that night when you guys you're heading back for safer waters, a fog rolls in, and then like the eldritch lights come back in, and then that's when like all shit hits the fan on your ship.
Yeah.
Like it's a pretty simple and straightforward horror plot, but its strength is in its simplicity, I feel. Like go to thing, find weird thing, look into it a little bit, then encounter source of weird thing, go mad, and try to escape. Or go mad yourself. So yeah. I could also see this story, like honestly, when I was like reading the story, it's like I kind of wanted to like print it out in a make it a prop, like for a real like immersive sort of thing, or even like use it for like one of the said game I just mentioned, like use this story as the as a prop in the game, and like do up like
put on the table in front of everyone.
Yeah, like do up like a U.S. letterhead, like Navy letterhead on like a piece of on some paper, and then print this off like using like a font. And then like weather it using various techniques, like putting it in tea water or like and then baking the pages, or like just like kind of like crinkling it up and stuff like that, to make it like look worn and stuff like that. Yeah, I could definitely see this being like I could envision this story being written on like some legal paper that the guy had or was able to like find. Maybe on the back of like some like start like you know like how ships have those like logs and stuff like that in like the captain's, or on like the on the helm of the ship. That's the word for like where the steering wheel and stuff is on the ship, right? The helm.
Well, the helm is the steering wheel itself, I believe.
Okay, what's that room? Is it just the control room, I guess, for the ship?
Yes.
Okay.
There's another word for it. I just can't think of it now that you're mentioning it.
we're not yeah, full disclosure, we're not like Navy people, so we don't really know. Although my uncle would be just so disappointed in me. But anyway, yeah, like that, like I imagine like he grabbed like maybe like one of the charting papers, or like a charting pad that they have like for writing down logs and stuff, and this is just written on the back of one of those. So, yeah, the one thing that does strike me about this story, like regarding continuity or maybe like some kind of an issue with the story, is when exactly it takes place. It does mention sat phones, so I guess it could happen anytime after 1960. But it was like I was like trying to like figure out, like I wasn't quite sure when this exactly happened. So That part's a little bit ambiguous, but it doesn't break the story for me. It's just like that was the one thing that if I had to pick something at the story that ruined it, like that would probably be something that if I looked too hard, I might get stuck in the weeds a bit with it. So
I'll tell you this: it was between 1992 and 1994.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
How? Because of the it being stationed out in Peru or whatever it's called, whatever that place was called.
Yeah, because that country didn't exist before.
Oh,
No.
okay.
I'm joking.
Oh.
Of course, it existed before.
Oh, you could have said that it didn't because like countries that pop up and don't have
That
popped up
country
in
only existed for 2 years. It only existed between 92 and 94. Before and after, it did not exist.
I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I'm very gullible.
Fair.
Okay, so like, is that because of, like the Gulf War? It was like basically that kind of thing, or
No, it's because the Mistral is a Cyclone class patrol ship, and Cyclone class patrol ships were only launched between 1992 and 1994. It says most of the ships were launched between those 2 years.
Okay,
although they are in commission, they're in use in the present.
Okay, well, so we've narrowed down the window even further. It's no longer like 1960 on; it's now 1992 or 1994 on.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's relatively modernish.
Yeah. Okay. Which makes sense. Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically my actual thoughts for the story. If I'm being honest, like I enjoyed the read. So when I was like reading, I was like, I don't really see much problem with this. Like, here's what I can comment on.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, guys, break me down. Like, make me roll my sand checks. What's wrong with the story? Mikey, you first. Let's take this.
So, the first part that I sort of tripped over a bit is when they're describing the Northern Lights underwater.
Yeah, like that's how they're describing the lights under the water. Yeah.
And then this quote here, as the ghostly lights winked. So my mind automatically went to, oh, is this a giant creature underwater and it's winking at them? But then the very next part of the sentence, out of existence.
Yeah, they winked out of existence. That's a phrase.
Yeah.
Blinked out of existence.
I think winked out of existence is also a word. Like it's also a phrase of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm okay with that.
Well, I mean,
because you know what that's saying? You know what that's like? It's like if you say that you going to sleep is you winking to sleep. Because I'm just saying, like, if you're winking, the act of winking, whether it is a standard wink or a Tommy Wiseau double eye wink, you are closing your eyes and then immediately reopening them. You're not closing them and keeping them closed. That's not a wink.
Okay, I'm telling you what it says on in dictionaries. what winked out of existence means is to be abruptly killed, destroyed, or ruined. Typically used in passive construction or in passive constructions, and often followed by of existence. So I was there on the ground watching. This is an example. I was there on the ground watching as innocent men, women, and children were winked out of existence by enemy gunfire.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. So it might, again, like we said earlier, from mentioned from an earlier like grammar inquisition thing, it might just be like a regional dialect thing. Like, because I personally would have gone with blinked out of existence, because that's how I've heard it. But I mean, I could understand why somebody would say winked out of existence, like if it's more of a more English phrase for it.
That being said, using my defense as I did, a wink and a blink are the same thing, just with one eye or all of them.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm fucked regardless.
Yeah.
The English language is weird.
Yep. No, we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Fuck the English language when it comes to like all the weird like eccentricities of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I love how this podcast has had a journey. This podcast over the years has had a journey of us just slowly coming to the realization and horror that the English language is the true monster we learned along the way.
You're not wrong.
We're becoming more embittered about the English language the more we do this show.
I think I might at some point actually just go full French.
just go full French Canadian. It's like, no, they had it right.
Yeah. Have accents on it, all the words, so you know how to say them.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the words, but some of them.
You don't want to go German, like with the loud angry language.
Oh yeah, because I can use German as a daily language a lot up here.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't think about the practical applications.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway. So my basic point is that I liked it when I suddenly imagined a monster under the water, and then to just be the lights going away is like,
I think that's what it was trying to describe. Was like it was some like immensely large creature under the water. And what we were seeing something like bioluminescence, or like its eyes itself like winking out of existence, and as it was closing its eyes and moving on, it just shorted out the power of the ship. Or again, it's some kind of cosmic entity that like that's the best we can how we can describe it looking at us is just an aurora borealis effect underwater.
I mean, because we don't even see it, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a creature. It could be some like weird mechanical thing down there for all we know.
Yeah, weird mechanical thing. It could also just be an anomaly of some kind. Like it doesn't have to be a creature, but it could be like some kind of energy anomaly that's underneath. Like honestly, it kind of reminds me of The Color Out of Space, because The Color Out of Space, it's the whole thing, the whole central like horror story of that, or the whole central horror of that story is that it's a farmer dealing with literally a color, like a light, a color of light that no one has ever seen before. That is just fucking with his shit. Because it's not necessarily malevolent or anything like that. It's just because it exists and it's in proximity to the person, the effects it's having on this person is like radiation. Like radiation isn't evil, but it does have a negative effect on us. So, and we don't. It's some kind of it kind of works almost like an organism in a way. In The Color does, but like it may not necessarily be an organism. It might be just some kind of anomaly that came out of from space. So,
it's like Octarine, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Very much like that. And I'm sure Terry Pratchett, when he wrote like The Color of Magic, like he may have had some inspiration. He definitely had some inspiration of Lovecraft stories when he was writing the Discworld. So, but and to another point that you actually kind of brought up there, Mikey, with the Northern Lights, I think it was funny because like it's a clear starry sky up like above them, and they're all looking down into the ocean that's reflecting this because it's super silent. So that it'd be really funny if like this entire thing, like this entire like is just a mix of cabin fever, like really fast set on cabin fever and madness. And because they look down at the ocean and they didn't think to look up into the sky and see, oh, there's some aurora borealis actually happening, and the sea's just reflecting that.
Yeah.
Like it's just reflecting it in a weird way, so it looks like it's deeper under the water, but it's actually just the reflection on the surface, like and they're just not looking up when the aurora borealis is like happening, because the aurora borealis is like pretty it doesn't happen for long periods of time. It does kind of wink out of existence and pop back in. Because it's just radiation bombarding our atmosphere. So it just sort of like comes in waves, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it'd be really funny if this is like, and honestly, when I was reading the story, I you'll like this, gamer. I immediately thought of the Muppet Treasure Island. It's like, I've got cabin fever.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got it too. Oh, we've got cabin fever.
It's pretty much that's the theme song all of them are singing in their head.
Yeah,
maybe out loud for all we know.
Yeah. In the cruise in the enlisted men's quarters, they're just like, we've got cabin fever. And then the guy's just like, nope, close the door after firing that flare gun. Oh god, I kind of want to like now I want to combine that like we got cabin fever, like that whole like that scene from the Muppet Treasure Island, and then just cut over to the next scene, immediately cut to the scene of MacCready from The Thing, and he's just like, yeah, fuck you too, as he closes the door. Yeah, that, again, in a nutshell, the story is just like the crew goes mad, starts killing everybody, goes wild and enraged, and the XO just like, fuck this, close everything up, barricade it. I'll die of exposure on the deck.
Yep, that's a choice.
Yeah.
Also, in regards to the Aurora Borealis and other water, I wonder if it's trying to get at, like, when they're looking through the water, they're seeing like the normal world. Like when they went into whatever the hell they are, it's almost like a Bermuda Triangle situation where they got teleported to some alternate dimension, but they can still see into the normal normal world that would be on the other side.
So
in the normal world, there is an Aurora Borealis going on, but in their weird upside down world right now, not so much.
Sorry, I got this idea for another horror for furthering the Call of Cthulhu like horror scenario.
Yes, cultist. I heard you had your hand up.
Yeah. Yes. So the Call of Cthulhu scenario is like sort of also explaining like Bermuda Triangle, Devil Triangle, like places in on the ocean. So in Lovecraft stories, there's the story From Beyond, which has a scientist named Tillinghast who creates a resonator that allows you to basically see dimensions beyond our, like, that are parallel to our own. The problem is they can also, those dimensions, the creatures and the creatures in those dimensions are like these weird, like almost like anglerfish or like worm-like creatures that just swim through their own like kind of liquid atmosphere. And they can see us. So then we're able to, they're actually, the problem with the resonator is that while we're able to see them, they can see us and they can also interact with us because we have our mind opened up to their reality.
Yeah.
And so there have definitely been scenarios in the past where somebody has like taken the Tillinghast resonator and like used it to basically open up portals to like the other reality, or like to shift reality. And in Delta Green, they even have a couple of things where like the Tillinghast resonator was used as the military was using it as a stealth option during like the early days of like post World War II, and that's why we had the what the fuck was it called? The ship that, so in real life there is a mystery of a ship that like blinked out of existence, and then reappeared, and the crew was like a horrible shit happened to the crew members because like, and it was like they were basically there was rumors about it where like the people on the ship like they were trying some secret experiment on the ship to try and create a cloaking device, and what it actually did was it teleported people and stuff. So like people rumored spotted their like crew members in their hometown for like a split second. Like they appeared and then they vanished. And then there was rumors of when the ship like made itself known again, or when it popped back up, they found crew members like melded into the ship itself.
Oh, geez.
As a result of the phasing technology they were tampering with. Again, there's a lot of it's one of those like world mystery sort of things. Like, did it happen? Was it not? Like, or was it just like all the rumors and stuff were overblown? But I think it was the USS Eldridge. That's what it was called.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not Eldritch. Eldridge, like ELDRI, like ELD Ridge, like as in like the mountain ridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't called the Eldritch, although it is very appropriate that it sounds like Eldritch.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, so in Delta Green lore, the USS Eldridge was using like a modified version of the Tillinghast resonator to try and like phase themselves to cloak, and basically it again, like it said, it went into another reality and horrible shit happened, and then it popped back in. And they've also tried to tie it with like time travel as a way for using the Tillinghast resonator. However, for the thing that was popping up in my head for this is that like maybe the Tillinghast resonator is an artificial version of an actual like natural phenomenon or unnatural phenomenon that happens around Earth, specifically on the ocean around sites like the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Triangle, and then this North Sea area. So like they just go to this. They've ended up in the North Sea Triangle basically, where the a Tillinghast resonator like effect has happened. So they are, and what they're seeing in the water is actually like they're already in the effect of the resonation. So they're looking down and they're actually seeing one of the massive organisms in the Liquivore universe. And that's just like, that's what it is. Like they're actually seeing, like they've been teleported to that reality, like you were saying. So like in a Call of Cthulhu game, that's how I would probably address it, is that basically you're dealing with Liquivores, which is the term that Delta Green uses for the creatures from beyond that live in the other reality. Because then you can have you can do all kinds of things. Because again, it's another reality. You can basically make up what they do.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, so far in stories, I've only ever heard them like really just be like hand sized, or like not even like maybe the size of a dog or something like that. The creatures, but yeah, we've never seen like what if there are whale sized Liquivores like in that other reality, in the beyond reality. So yeah, for this again, for this scenario, this Cthulhu game scenario, I would probably make it like as an explanation for like Bermuda Triangle, Devil Triangle sort of like phenomena, and mix it with the resonator. So yeah, sorry, I had to get that out because you were like, I was like getting really like, my mind was like was lighting up. It was about to they were all the bulbs were about to burst into a shower of sparks.
Of Spocks.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Captain.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, Cultist has gone Spock. Anyway.
Captain Fever.
Yeah, I've got Captain Fever. Captain Fever.
Captain.
Oh god. Okay, yeah, I'll stop before I start coming up with a scenario for Captain Fever.
Okay, good.
This has been an impromptu Cthulhu Make It Better and kitchen segment. Please go on. Save me from myself.
All right. All right. So my next thought here, I have a quote. If there was a splash when he hit the water, it was swallowed by the fog. So fog doesn't stop sound.
Fair.
I mean, foghorns exist.
No one says it's mundane fog in their weird area, though.
Yeah, it could be muffling fog.
Yeah, but technically the fog is still out there. Like, it, because of how it is, it's staying away from the ship.
No. I think at this point, the fog had basically covered over the ship. Like it mentioned, like the night before, the fog was only like was several hundred yards away. But when he got back onto the deck to look for the captain, like to hear the screaming, the fog had covered over the ship.
Thought I read. For all we know, at that point, because there's so much fog, who knows what's actually under it? That guy could have not made a splash because there's no damn water there anymore. It could be there's a giant freaking creature that's just holding the boat with his mouth open.
Fuck. yeah, exactly. It's just like,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I like that.
Like eating grapes.
Yeah.
Being fed grapes, rather.
Yeah. Or it could be like he didn't make a splash because a tentacle grabbed him first, and then just like I'm just gonna softly bring you down to my butt, to my stomach, or I was to my belly, to my mouth.
Yeah. So my thought there is that it might be at this point the dream sequence, or there's a come to cabin fever.
Yeah.
Because when you're dreaming, you don't necessarily hear the sounds of things that happen. Things just happen.
Yeah, that's true. Also, just to double check, I don't know. It does say like the sound of screaming brought me above deck and into a thick, heavy fog, high in the gloom. So yeah, the at this point the fog has completely encased the ship as well. Like it's completely covered the ship. So
yeah. My next actual thought is that I liked the visuals of the supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's stars above them, yet there's fog in every direction, and it's the fog is spinning because it's
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So like that, it was like, ooh, that's kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't mean to keep interrupting, but I do like the idea that if this creature is actually in physical space, like in our physical reality, it's maybe it's just as it moves through the ocean, like so far down, like it's not making any like physical disturbance in the water like above, but it is causing like a weird atmospheric thing because again, it's like it's creating some kind of it's definitely creating some kind of like EMF field, which I just said ATM machine, didn't I? It is creating some kind of electromagnetic field above.
You said EMF.
Yeah, I said EMF and then I said field, which is electromagnetic
Oh,
field.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought you meant that you literally said ATM field.
No. But like, so it's clearly creating some kind of atmospheric issue, like with like the resonance that it's creating above the ocean. So maybe the fog is also the indicator that it's around. Like basically they've stumbled into the eye of the storm as it is. Like basically the calm in the middle of the fog, the swirling fog field that it creates. So and that's where like the energy fields that it's creating are strongest. Like it's like what maybe it's like some kind of a whale, and instead of like a blowhole that shoots water up, it basically just shoots up like like some kind of EMF radiation. So yeah, like that's like it creates that weird radiation that just like again shorts out electronics and like causes madness. Maybe that's like part of its organism. Again, like playing on the idea that it's not malignant or it's not a malevolent force specifically, but it's just because it exists, it's causing problems for the lesser humans.
Yeah, like that's just it breathing.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just such an old creature that it doesn't realize that it's harming us.
Yeah.
That's sometimes like how Lovecraft. I think that's generally like what Lovecraft wanted to get across with his cosmic horror and his great old ones and stuff is that they don't care about us because and it's just the fact that they exist is what hurts us.
Mm-hmm.
Again, see the parallels between like the great old ones and radiation. Like yeah. Yeah, I do like the visuals as well, I gotta agree. Like the fact that we get this clear, crisp, starry sky above, fog roiling around the ship, like hundreds of yards away from it, and then like looking down in the silent sea and just seeing this like horrible this horrible light organism thing in underneath the ocean, like below you, like and it being impossibly large, is a really good visual.
Yeah. And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right. Then we have Gamer.
All right. So right around the start, saying if you're reading this, then I'm dead, and you're standing aboard a derelict Cyclone-class patrol ship, the USS Minstrel. So I really hope that this is me making a note at the time. I really hope that there's other boats mentioned in the story. There is, because the one in the fog in the picture is not a PT boat like what the USS Marshall is mentioned to be.
Oh right, I forgot we don't address the image in the room.
No, that's why I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it gave like a false visual right off the bat. Although like because I clarified that the Cyclone is a PT style boat, I knew what that was. But to someone who didn't Google it, they may think that the huge kind of shipping boat is what both boats are.
Yeah.
I'll move on from there.
Okay.
Then he says, get off the Mistral at once, send her down. So there's a quarantine scenario. All hands are likely dead. I'd help you if they're not. And then it switches to a new paragraph. We are 8 days out of Kirkwall and blah, 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 blah. So even though we would make it so there's no damn story, why did he continue to write if he's so adamant about the reader just sinking the ship? It kind of seems counterproductive.
Like, I think he also wants to try and like, all right, if you're gonna keep reading, this is what happened. Like maybe he's trying to like keep his mind going, even though like he knows it's inevitable. But he's like writing down. He wants to write down a record of what happened to them.
Yeah. But still.
it is definitely.
He's like, stop reading this right now. Send the ship down. By the way, here's a 45-page essay about what happened.
It wasn't even. No, it was not that long.
I'm being freaking silly and exaggerating.
I know, and I hate you for it. But okay, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the whole letter situation would come across better if instead of the entirety of this story being the letter that he wrote, it could have been like on a narration kind of situation where the narrator and what's the word? Omniscient,
yeah.
Omniscient narrator is following along the main character, and then like Nair picks up a letter, which is just the first part, saying like, "Get the fuck off the ship. There's nothing here worth it." And then it follows him ignoring that and seeing what's on the ship because he's a curious Nair that has to get himself killed for the sake of the story.
But then, your counter here to one horror trope is to just add another horror trope to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
And like, I don't agree. Like, I think if you're gonna I think if you're gonna use a horror trope, stick with that same horror trope, especially one that like it does like I can make sense of what it's trying to do with the horror trope of like don't like just scuttle a ship. But if you're gonna keep reading, then I guess I'll write down like my whole like the adventure that's happened. What has happened so far in the story in my story.
Yeah.
To get us, I bet you're wondering how we got to this point. Like that, it's basically that. It's that kind of like trope where it's like, let me regale you of how this all started, and then it cuts away. Maybe a way to do it, like if you don't want to have like the pure like letter format, have the introductory part, like you said, like scuttle the ship and whatnot. God help us, and then have like a horizontal line to break it, and then basically at that point have an unseen narrator or an omniscient narrator basically going through the situation of what happened on the Mistral, like from like God help you if they are not, and then like horizontal line to break up to show that there's a break in the narration, and then have like a third person narration of the entire events that have happened,
or have it so you kind of learn the story in reverse, or like you're up on the top of the ship and you learn the final like insane ramblings of this guy as he's dying or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is basically just don't look any further, just sink the ship and everything. But then Nair goes down and checks out the ship. Yeah, maybe all the other ones are dead down there, but he finds other
letters,
like maybe like other letters from this guy, like when he gets into his cabin. And through those letters, he can piece together what happened to lead up to the point where the whole ship should be just sank.
Okay, so make Nair, who if you're reading the story, like just shuttle, like have him suddenly become a character, like every other paragraph, or like every little bit, like have a paragraph of him like going deeper into the Mistral and finding like Ryan's logs in his cabin. Like maybe he actually like was writing down like a journal entries, or like journal logs and stuff like that.
And as he's walking down, you see the final result of what happened in that room, but then you find out through the messages what actually happened in that room.
Yeah,
after the fact or prior to the fact, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you could, because it's an actual character grabbing the stuff, then by the end you can explain that he got out, because otherwise how would we have the story?
Yeah. I mean, the way it's described in as now, it like clearly like this letter was taken by whoever sailor who took it and brought back. So like, I mean, again, it's I guess it's a difference of opinion on the different writing tropes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you either like it or don't like this kind of writing or this style of writing. So
as it is, like the only way that we'd be getting this information is if we're God and we're just reading everything that's there.
No, or if somebody like a sailor did come aboard, find this letter, and then just take it with them, and then transcribed it online for somebody to
Yes,
read.
but usually when that happens, they straight up say that.
I guess I don't know. This is definitely like maybe it's because I read a lot of like Lovecraftian horror, and this is very much a Lovecraftian horror writing style, where like you're reading a letter of warning that goes into full detail of a story.
Yes.
Like that happens a lot in those stories, so maybe that's why I'm more comfortable with it as it is.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Just the format of it kind of messed with immersion a little bit with me, I guess. Is the shortest way to say all that.
Fair.
And then moving on. I was no longer breathing, holding silently at the entrance, but the attacker snapped his head up to see me, nostrils flaring. Collapsed to the floor, dead from snapping his own neck.
God damn it. Yeah. Nostrils flaring, dropped to the floor cold.
That was easy. But no, that doesn't happen, obviously.
Yeah.
As I passed through the portal and slammed the door, the fire had climbed up to his hair, and he was squealing now. This is when we shot him with a flare gun. Yeah. His clawed hand still outstretched towards me. So at this point, I'm like, what are these creatures now? Because at first I thought they were just humans that have gone nuts and feral, but they have claws now?
He's describing like, okay.
His clawed hands.
This is being told from an unbiased or from a biased observer, or like a biased narrator. So like their hands, like again, like you're ripping into people and eating them, or killing them and stuff like that, and beating them and like wrecking your hands. They're gonna look like claws, just from like how mangled they look. So I think it's like basically like the hand, it's still human hands, but they're like he's using them like claws. That's how I interpreted it when I read it. It was just like they're still mad men. They're just like they've gone feral. So now like they're like coiling, they're like basically like coiling their fingers into like claw like formation.
Oh, referring to a hand position, not actually claws.
Mikey, did you see that way, or did you see something different?
Yeah, well, I saw the hands clawed. I don't know. Basically, his hands are ready to grab because they're clawed and outstretched,
like zombies, or kind of like how you see in like zombie movies. Like they're just like they're clawing at you with their hands.
Yes,
clawing is one thing. Clawed hands is describing the hands.
Okay, well, I mean, clawed. Okay, maybe that's a typo then. Like, yeah,
or maybe it's like just because he's been attacking and murdering people without any self-preservation or anything anymore. So all like flesh from his fingertips and everything has been like ripped away or worn down. So it's just like bone and nail.
Yeah,
that's all that's there now. So they do sort of look like claws now.
Yeah, I could buy that. Like again, like he's not reacting like a rational normal person. Like because there's fire going up to his head, and he's not clawing at his head to try and get the fire out. He's clawing forward like a zombie almost. like he's not in control of his own faculties.
But I don't think he's clawing at the door because it says his clawed hand still outstretched towards me. So it's almost like he's just reaching for him and not actually clawing for him.
Yeah. Okay. So clawed hands, like outstretched, like so, like yeah. Basically, his hands are like in claw-like formation.
Yeah.
That's what I think what's trying to describe there. It's not like they may not actually physically be claws now. It's just I know. And again, this is also written. I hate to do this exact same thing that you did to me earlier, but it's like it's the way the character wrote. So he's like in a crazed, manic, and desperate state at the moment. So like he's just describing what he saw, and what he saw was like claws coming at him from the guy.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll move on. I haven't seen the word charnel or carnal house before.
Oh, really?
No, I've never seen it before.
Okay.
It's apparently just a vault of where human skeletal remains are stored.
Yep. Yeah, it's often used a lot in horror stories, although I'm surprised we haven't come across it more. Because, like, you turn this place into a charnel house.
Is it charnel or carnal?
That's tomato. I think
Okay.
it depends on like it's like it literally depends on. I'll just look it up.
It's charnel.
Okay.
It's
Is
a
it?
hard H because carnal would be for carnal desires, which is
Yeah.
something completely different.
You say that, but buffalo. Like,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
and
People.
other
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. It's similar to like how they used abattoir in the story. It's like again they use it as a descriptor for like a
Yeah.
room of horror and death.
For sure.
This is a lovely room of death.
Take care now. Bye then.
Yeah. Thank you for getting that reference.
Of course, I've watched it a million times. I have it on VHS.
Same. For the audience at home, for you youngins out there, we're talking about Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, the sequel to Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Yes. Anyways, moving on to my last one. Okay, what?
You mean you don't have the French version, Ace Ventura in Africa?
Is that what they call it? I guess that makes sense. Ace Ventura in Africa. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. Actually, probably is more
Really?
straightforward than the English title.
In Africa?
Apparently, that's what.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the translation from the French version.
Interesting.
Trying to find this now.
I know. Same. This is super important to the and totally not a waste of time on our podcast.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You keep Googling if you want. So my last note is just I find that the crew kind of snapped very suddenly. Like
Yeah.
And, like also, why didn't Ryan snap? Like literally
clearly
everyone else.
My explanation? He passed his sand check. He's the only one who passed a sand check.
I suppose.
Like, yeah, that's my guess is like he's the for lazy writing wise, he's got plot armor. he's got mental plot armor. And the other one is
physical
like
too, he didn't even get hit.
Who did? What?
Physical plot armor too, because he didn't even get touched.
Yeah. Yeah, on Afrique. Thank you, Mikey. He posted in the Discord a disc of Ace Ventura on Afrique.
Oh, awesome.
Anyway, yeah. So I think really it's just that him and that other sailor, the one that got beaten to death by the captain, they were the only ones who didn't fail their sanity check, and the sand check was such a bad one because basically it was like seeing Cthulhu down in the depths. So basically, it's like I think hang on, let me pull up my Call of Cthulhu book because again, super important. See what the sanity is for such a loss. Sanity loss. Here we go. So when you see Great Cthulhu, it's 1d10 for success and a die percentile if you fail. So basically, him and the other guy probably rolled like pretty low on that d10. So they lost some sanity when they passed, but it wasn't enough to break them. Everyone else though failed, so they lost like a D percentile. So they lost like anywhere between 10 to 100 sanity in one go.
Yeah.
So that's basically how I'm kind of interpreting like why everyone went nuts. It is a little, it does make sense in the context to like that if there's some kind of actually aggressive manifestation or aggressive influence that people are having on like because like it happens like literally overnight. People just go nuts completely. Like it makes sense in the context of like thinking about it as a like again a Cthulhu game or like a horror scenario where like there's an active presence that's doing it right off the hop, like making you like basically influencing you aggressively. But if it is just like they look down and see this horrifying thing, it might take a little bit longer for it to sink into people, like let the madness sink in. Especially since like they were scuttled, they were basically like dead in the water like that night. So I'm surprised that it was like the next afternoon is when the madness like took hold. It was like it would like cabin fever doesn't take that fast. It takes a little.
It's cabin fever.
No, I know.
Whatever the hell's in the water.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like they've got some kind of madness. But I mean, I'm surprised like the story's only 6 pages long, so like I'm surprised, but I am surprised that it took like one day versus like maybe a couple of days at least for madness to take hold of people like this
All I was
quickly.
talking about also is like right when the shit starts hitting the fan, aka the captain murdering the other guy.
Yeah.
How come the captain / the other guy were the first ones to get infected before everyone else?
Well,
if it's meant to be just like a blanket attack that hits everyone.
well, maybe the captain maybe got hit first because he was the first one. Him and the watchman of that night were the most exposed to the lights.
Well, they were the two up on deck while everyone was down below deck.
Yeah.
And then shit went bad, so everyone went up outside, got infected, and then things went bad.
They got hit worse because they were the most exposed to it. And then everyone else basically got blanketed because everyone else was at the rails looking down when the captain gave the call.
Mm-hmm.
So does that help your confusion over or your thing there with the onset of madness? Or
Well, I understand how it went. I was expecting and kind of hoping for a slower build, almost like a zombie movie where characters slowly become infected and get killed by one mean or another, you know?
Yeah. I will. Yeah, the story did like happen real fast, but again, like, yeah, it was only in 6 pages. So like, by like I think like the 4th or 5th page, I was like, okay, this is happening a real like there better like be some conclusion happening soon. Like better be a decent conclusion to this.
It's like the way it works right now is, let's say that just the captain and the watchman were outside. They get infected first. Captain kills the shit out of him. Everyone else goes up on deck. They all get infected. Ryan, our hero, stares. He goes into a fugue state, because he literally does.
Yeah,
and
'cause,
all the other guys go back down below when they still have their bearings, and then they snap, and then they start murdering each other. But we don't really see. Granted, he didn't see it either, and we don't know how long he was in a fugue state.
Yeah,
But it's just like he sees it. It says that he stared at it for a little while, went downstairs, and then all of a sudden, it's hell down there.
yeah, it is. Maybe again, maybe he was just he doesn't. Maybe we need like a sentence that says like I don't know how long I stood there on the deck, because and then he started hearing the shooting and the screaming. So like and it does say, I believe I'm trying to look for it right now, where the captain dies and like the group the crew slinks, but it says something else about the crew going down to the depths to and about morale.
He said that the first gunshot broke him from his reverie.
Yeah, so he's basically so he's just standing there. Sorry, I'm trying to.
He could have been standing there for 10 minutes while everyone.
So the silent audience having melted away below deck, no doubt taking the grim tale with them. I feared for morale, an absurd concern, I realize now, but could not move from the spot, as if sheer force of will would cause the sea to regurgitate this man, my friend. Okay, so it seems like maybe there was some time happening, like there was a time frame that basically Ryan blacked out through as he was in the fugue state, because the people that were on deck, like the crowd that was on deck, slinked back into the bowels of the ship to probably relay what had happened to the rest of them, and then like again, like those affected by the madness went over to and got weapons and began executing people, because like later on he goes to like the next quarter over to see his like the junior officers, and they've been killed in their beds with like headshots, so they were still sleeping when they got headshotted. So yeah, it's definitely I feel like it's there was something that happened, but our narrator Ryan was in a fugue state during most of it. So it's sort of like how in The Hobbit, Tolkien completely brushes over an entire war as Bilbo has been knocked out. Like in the Battle of Five Armies, Bilbo gets knocked out and just passes out, and when he comes to, the war is over. the conflict is over. So yeah, he missed out on everything that happened. So and that's just how Tolkien did it. They would be like a couple of sentences of it's like, and then the adventurers came upon a group of 10,000 orcs. After the group killed the orcs, what?
Yeah.
And then Bilbo saw Gandalf saw a blade of grass that reminded him of a song, and then you get 10 pages of a song. Like it's that kind of again it's just like an old way of like extrapolating like brushing over something, and that's an example of maybe how not to do it. But in this story, it kind of also works because he's in a fugue state, trying to like get over the death of his friend that has gone that went mad.
I think a very simple. I don't know how long I stood there for.
Yeah,
but the first gunshot broke me from my reverie.
I think that would definitely help with the issue here.
That's all I got for my actual thoughts.
Okay. So then I guess we move on to final thoughts. You guys tried, and you didn't break me. I passed my sand checks. I know. It's a joke. Like,
you want me to try? I can.
No, please don't. Do not. Do not.
Oh, is it not my turn anymore?
Don't. No.
Oh, okay.
You had your chance.
I did.
But no, yeah, I'm going to recommend this one. It was a fast, fun read of cosmic isolation horror. Like more probably cosmic horror than there's a little bit of isolation horror because like the ship got like dead in the water, but the madness took on real quick. So, yeah, I could definitely see myself using this as fodder for a Cthulhu game, and I may in the future, but time will tell. No, it's a little spooky story that I enjoyed, so I'm going to recommend it. So, Mikey, these stands for evil.
I'm going to give this a partial recommendation. While I liked the visuals, I would have liked a slower burn on the madness.
Fair.
Like Gamer pointed out, like he was hoping that the madness would take a little while to seep in and just be like a zombie movie.
Yeah.
The madness was like sushi. It was good, but then like a couple minutes later, you're hungry again.
Isn't that Chinese food?
Pretty sure that's sushi.
It
might also be Chinese food.
Well, sushi, it's like I eat it, it's good, and then I'm like oh god, so good, but oh god, I'm so full.
Yeah, for about 10 minutes.
Yeah. And then I go into a coma or a food coma. But yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Yeah, like I definitely get from that angle as well.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that's fair. So, Gamer.
I mean, reading through it, I liked it. It paints a very clear visual of what's going on all the way through. It is creepy to read this entire letter from what happened on this boat. Like, even though I picked apart how it's kind of redundant, him saying like, "Stop reading, but here's a short story I wrote that if you want, you know."
Yeah, a much more like critical mind, or not critical mind, a much more like trying to think of what the word, like a certain like person would definitely like roll their eyes hard on like that trope. It's like, don't look at, like, stop reading. Let me tell you the 6-page story of what happened, why you should stop reading.
Yeah.
It's a horror trope.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, with a little bit more explanation of when the shit hits the fan, I feel like it could be better. But overall, I'm still gonna give it, I guess, a partial recommendation, like a partial plus recommendation, because it was still good. I enjoyed it. Just there's a couple of things that kind of irked me one way or another, but not enough to really ruin the enjoyment. Yeah.
Okay. So that's, I guess, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, because your 2 partials make 1.
Yep.
So yeah, that's our recommendation. That's this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below, wherever this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, spooky things, SCPs, cryptids, the whole shebang of horror that's online. Send them our way. We'll look at them, and then we'll put them on the show. And if you'd like to help our show financially, you can go to our Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We currently have $2 and $5 tiers with special episodes, early access, and extra content. To our patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, thank you. Deeply, thank you. Yeah. It means a lot.
And we would not be able to do this show without you guys.
Yeah. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you guys just as much, because without your listenership, it would be like speaking out into a silent sea where fog is embroiling our ship. And if you didn't write these stories, well, I mean, guys, we wouldn't have anything to talk about because we'd have no stories to talk about. So it'd just be us just like, well, what do you guys think about horror?
I don't know. What's horror?
Oh, no.
Okay, Warframe?
I guess.
Then we become a video game podcast.
Yeah, and just follow the millions of podcasts that are based off video game talk.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so thank you all the same. Like, it really means a lot. I love creepypastas. I hope you like my hosts like creepypastas to a degree.
I mean, I tolerate creepypasta.
Yeah, it's more Stockholm syndrome at this point, but
I mean, you're not wrong, but it's fine.
Yeah, no, again,
I do learn something like every time I read one of these.
Yeah,
be it for better or for worse. I do learn things, whether it's words or different ways to do a story and grammar, and I always learn something.
Yeah, I learned ululating today.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey's just going to remain silent. All right.
He's all-knowing. He learns nothing.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, I tolerate this.
Yes.
The company's okay sometimes.
Oh.
Oh. That was at me, mostly. That was a jab at me, mostly, not you. Anyway, so again, thank you all who's listening to us and writing these stories and giving us money for to support the show. We really appreciate it. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. D stands for evil.
I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.